My parents like, hey, let's talk. So by the way, we're going to Taiwan. My first response was like, what is Taiwan? So actually, when we moved here in the 90s, because we were in Kaohsiung and the type of work that they were supposed to be doing at the time, they learned Taiwanese.
Oh my
first.
God, I was just gonna say Taiwanese?
Yes.
Oh,
I was so
like
proud
that.
of that as a kid. 我是台湾人. And I was like, oh, you are Taiwanese. Like you can speak Taiwanese. Growing up here, the more I connected with Taiwan, the more bitter I got toward Westerners. Because as I got older, you know, I'm 6 feet tall. People just kind of assume I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm one of the English teachers. I'm one of the guys here, you know, bar hopping and chasing girls and whatever else. And I'm like, dude, I'm 15. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm going to stay away from all foreigners. Foreigners are bad.
Cole Fogel here, and today I'm with...
Gabe Ulmer.
And where are you from originally?
Originally from the States. I was born in Georgia. We moved overseas when I was 5 years old to Hong Kong.
Okay, with your parents.
My parents. So my parents are missionaries. So we came to Hong Kong first when I was 5, and then we got to Taiwan right after my 10th birthday.
Wow. Oh, so you were like literally living in Asia as a young child.
Yeah, we were in Hong Kong for 2 years. My parents did kind of like a part-time position in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
My dad did media work for the church in Hong Kong. My mom grew up missionary kid with missionary parents in Asia as well. So there's already an Asia connection to the family. My mom grew up in Malaysia and Singapore.
Wow.
So they'd always kind of thought about maybe going back to Asia.
So your mom, through her parents' missionary work, grew up in Asia the way you grew up in
Correct.
Asia. That's very interesting.
My mom was in Malaysia and Singapore from the time she was 2. So from the time she was 2 to the time she was 18, she was abroad. Yeah, in Asia. And back then, of course, going back to the States all the time wasn't really an option. It was like take a boat back. So she like didn't go back to the States much at all until she got to college. They went to Hong Kong in 93. We moved to Florida in 95, and we got here in 98.
Oh, you've been here since 1998.
Correct. And my parents are still here.
And you were here a year before I got here. I got here in 1999.
Yep.
The 90s. Is that crazy?
I was here for 921.
I arrived a few weeks before 921. Where were you living when the big earthquake happened?
I was here in Kaohsiung, so obviously Kaohsiung wasn't as bad as some other places, but I definitely remember...
You could feel it, though.
Getting woken up. I was in bed, and I was in a bunk bed.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure my brothers was just messing with me, trying to wake me up, like shake the bed, like get up for school or whatever. And then I heard things crashing to the floor, and I'm like, crawled out of bed, went to my parents' room. Is there an earthquake? My parents were like, no, it's fine, go back to bed.
I was living in Taichung when 921 happened, so
you definitely
and I was on
it.
the 19th floor.
Mm-hmm. My wife's from Taichung, so
your wife is from Taichung.
Her family experienced it really bad.
And gotcha.
And so, you know, but I definitely, that was my first earthquake experience as a 11-year-old. That was kind of a welcome to Taiwan, like, hey, we have earthquakes.
That's exactly what I said, yeah, because I was only here a few weeks, and it was like, oh, welcome to Taiwan, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, when we moved here in the 90s, because we were in Kaohsiung and the type of work that they were supposed to be doing at the time, they learned Taiwanese
Oh my
first.
God, I was just going to say Taiwanese?
Yes.
Your parents speak Taiwanese?
That's what they learned first.
So cool.
So they went to language school here in Kaohsiung, and they learned Taiwanese for, 3 or 4 years? But then their work shifted to university students.
Yeah.
So then they had to learn Mandarin.
Oh, okay.
So they've learned a little bit of both.
And Taiwanese is a language that sounds like people are fighting when they talk.
Yeah. I mean, Cantonese, because living in Hong Kong prior, so Cantonese and Taiwanese, it's a heart language. It's very
passionate.
It's passionate. It's loud. It's like, no, we're not fighting. We're just talking.
Did you absorb the language quickly then, being here at such a young age?
No. I mean, I speak it fluently now. But definitely when I was a kid, I was old enough at 9 or 10 years old to be kind of bitter toward my parents. Like, I was constantly on the move. So when we got to Florida, I was there for 3 years. Like first,
which was the longest.
So first, second, third grade. I'm like, I'm gonna be here forever.
And you were happy.
And I was like, oh, this is like kind of nice. This is what it feels like to be in one place. Then my parents were like, hey, let's talk. We're going to Taiwan. My first response was like, what is Taiwan? I didn't have any clue about like, okay, where's Taiwan? What is Taiwan? Like, even though I'd been in Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong as a 5-year-old. So when we moved here, I was not happy.
Of course.
I was real bitter about it. And I also had the attitude of like, well, we're only going to be here a year or two anyways. So I saw no point in learning the language. Made all my friends through basketball. And basketball in Taiwan's the easiest thing to do. You pick up a ball and there's a court everywhere.
And there's kids everywhere playing it.
And it's the easiest way to make a friend because you pick it a pickup game and you meet people. And my 8th grade year, we went back to the States for a year. And I left Kaohsiung and I went back to small town Georgia, which was a culture shock, like reverse culture shock of like, I've been in big city Kaohsiung for 4 years now. And now I'm back in where my grandparents lived at the time.
Oh my God, so different.
And I had to go to school, American public school for a year. And it was that was a culture shock because it was so different from going to tiny little Morrison Christian school, private school, and then getting dumped in Georgia public school.
Because at Morrison, you would have had kids from all different countries.
All different countries, and it's only one class per grade. There's only like 15 kids in my class. We all knew each other. And also coming back to the States after 9/11, everybody kind of gave you like a look of like, you're from where?
Are you a spy?
Well, I got a lot of questions, but you remember, we're teenagers. I got a lot of questions out of ignorance because they didn't know.
Yeah, because small town
America,
they have no idea what's
any better.
Yeah.
No,
so did you get bullied a little bit, or you seem like a big dude? Like
I was not a big dude.
Oh, okay. So
definitely got teased about things.
Yeah, teased.
But I played baseball. I got to play baseball again.
And that's how
my
you
1 year
connected
back,
with.
and so that's how I kind of made friends again.
So you've used sports in your life.
Sports has been my outlet my entire life, even now as an adult.
I mean, it's healthy.
Yes, and I actually hit a huge growth spurt. I guess I was eating my grandparents' food, and then by the end of 8th grade, I'm like 6 feet tall.
Wow.
So I got back to Kaohsiung at the end of my 8th grade year, and everybody was like, "Oh, dude, what happened to you?" And like I was, all tall now.
Oh, right. When you left, you were short, and then suddenly you were this tall, skinny dude.
And at the time, Morrison Kaohsiung only went into 9th grade. All right.
High school.
What am I going to do? Well, at the time, the only high school option here was KAS, Kaohsiung American School. But, Christian education, continuing in the same school system, same friends. Morrison option was to go to Taichung.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So at the time, that meant my parents are still here. I have to move to a dorm.
Oh, interesting.
In Taichung. So I'm 15, not thrilled about that idea. But I went to the dorm.
Oh, so you ended up moving to Taichung.
By myself. As a 15-year-old, I don't think every 15-year-old's ready for that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the best experience with dorm life and living on my own. Kind of struggled academically and socially and just new school, new environments. Parents actually ended up moving up to Taichung the next year.
Oh.
So I ended up staying in Taichung for the next decade almost.
Wow.
After Morrison, I went back to the States for college to try it out.
Right, yeah.
I was homesick. I wasn't feeling it. Like my head wasn't there. Like I was physically there.
Homesick for Taiwan.
Yeah, like I was homesick. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I had friends here in Taiwan, so I'm up all night online chatting with my friends. I'm not going to class.
So then you came back?
So 19, I was 20. I came back here, and because I was an adult now, I couldn't be on my parents' visa.
Oh, okay.
So I got a student visa. I went to Fengjia.
I lived near Fengjia.
For about a year and a half. Took some classes. And I used to drive from Yizhong, where my family lived, to Fengjia.
Oh, it's chaos.
So Xitun going all the way across the city.
That's the artery of the city.
And
one of the most dangerous roads I've ever driven on in Taiwan.
It's narrow, but it's not
Careful
that
with
bad.
Xitun. It's probably safer now. There was more chaos back then. Like
driving was more chaos than
driving
is
is better now, I think.
It's
still crazy, but better. Or is it that we've just lived here so many years?
You also get used to it. Like you become, the more you drive here, the more you get used to it. And the more
there's
you
a
get
flow.
Better. If you go with the flow, you're fine. The older I got and the longer I stayed here, like it was the identity of like, who am I? I went through that phase of like, well, I'm not a foreigner.
Yeah.
I'm not Taiwanese. I don't want to just live in this little international community bubble.
Yeah, because it's not
like
it's not
I
real
wanted
life.
to get out and learn Taiwan and learn the culture. And the more friends I made outside of Morrison and more local friends that I made, it's like so I identify with them, but I also identify with a little bit with the Morrison crowd. it was like I went through this whole identity crisis of like, who am I? So like that was another part of high school, is like a lot of my time after class, I went out with my Taiwanese friends.
Oh, that's cool.
Like I would go down to Yizhong, I would go to Fengjia, I would go to these different places. And even in Kaohsiung, going to Zhejiang, because at the time, Zhejiang was like always something going on. Like all the shops and all the, like going to all the sneaker stores and clothes, and that's where we'd hang out. We'd go to the pool halls, we'd go to the internet cafes.
Oh God, this is really Taiwan, what you're describing.
And so like, you start to like, to be out in that more, and you start to pick up on things and learn the language and learn the culture. So then it was like, like I didn't know who I was and like what I wanted to be, and so it made it hard for me to make friends, you know, because it was like, well, who do I want to spend more time with? Like, who do I want to? And so I struggled through that all through high school. It's like, because I remember as a kid growing up here, the more I connected with Taiwan, the more bitter I got toward Westerners. Because as I got older, you know, I'm 6 feet tall. People just kind of assume I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm one of the English teachers. I'm one of the guys here, you know, bar hopping and chasing girls and whatever else. And I'm like, dude, I'm 15. Like, I'm not, you know, that's not me.
That was me when I came here.
Yeah, and like, and I knew guys like that, but I didn't want to be that guy. So it was like, I wanted nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
So I tried to go the complete opposite of like, I'm only going to hang out with Taiwanese people. I'm going to stay away from all foreigners. Foreigners are bad. But now, like, I look back on like the immaturity of that, or like, well, I could have done both.
I get it.
And now as an adult, like, you know, I'm 36 now, and I'm like, okay, I can be both. I can be American, I can be Taiwanese, and I can be happy that I am both, rather than resenting one or the other.
That. Yeah. Where did you meet? How many years ago did you meet your wife, and where did you meet your wife? I'm guessing Taiwan. You met her.
I didn't want to teach.
I can relate.
Like, I didn't want to be an English teacher. I didn't want to be one of those guys. And so I started working at like the clothing stores. Long story short, the clothing store that I hung out a lot was across the street from a sneaker store that she worked at. And through so many mutual friends or whatever, she mistook me for somebody else. So like we started talking, because I think I'm sure I've seen you somewhere. And it turned out like we knew all the same people because we had so much in common. So just, we talked and talked. And I think we talked for a couple years, and then we officially started dating. Dated for 2 years officially, and then we got married in 2015. We went back in 2019.
Yeah.
It was culture shock for both of us.
Yeah.
Going from Kaohsiung, Taiwan to Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia. Like, so I'm not only going to Virginia, I'm going to, you know, mountains, smaller town. My plan was to go back, finish a degree, get some certifications.
Oh, this is pre-kids as well.
Yeah, pre-kids. I was going to be taking classes and like working. I got certified as a USA basketball coach a few years ago. I did travel ball, high school boys basketball in the States pre-COVID, and then COVID happened. With coaching, my season got cut short. Yeah. But then late 2019, early 2020, we got pregnant with Alana. Our life plan changed, and just things, you know, one thing led to another. Yeah. And like we couldn't come back to visit. Grandparents couldn't see grandkids. Finally, we got to come back to visit, 2022?
Oh, but that was still during quarantine, right?
Still was.
So you had to go to a quarantine hotel?
We did quarantine hotel.
With your 2 kids?
Well, at the time it was just 1. And then 2024, we actually moved back. But it's weird coming back now. Even she has moments of like, I miss America. You know, I miss this or I miss that. I miss certain foods or certain.
Go back and forth.
Just the lifestyle difference. Like you get used to a thing after a certain period of time. But it was definitely an adjustment for both of us. I definitely went through some reverse culture shock moving back to the States. But she is happy to be home.
She is happy to be home.
And also just the convenience of Taiwan. Taiwan's so convenient.
Yeah. What do you think are the benefits of raising a kid here in Taiwan?
For me, convenience, getting around. There's so much for them to do. I think it's good to have that exposure to 2 languages and 2 cultures. But yeah, I think growing up, for children to grow up multilingual and multicultural.
I think it's beautiful.
Is so important, and I am so thankful that I had that opportunity as a kid.
Yeah, I think you're really like there's it's a blessing.
It's
Maybe
a
it was a
huge
blessing in disguise.
It
at
was.
the time.
It was definitely. You're definitely up. You don't see it as a 10 and 11-year-old, but like
you're grateful now.
You reflect on it now in your 30s, and
you
you go,
gratitude, I guess.
I'm so thankful I have that worldview. My worldview is like this.
Yeah.
My understanding of the world and culture and people. So I want my kids to have that same experience too. So I think there's so many pluses to being here. So I definitely think this is a good experience for them, just like it was for me.
Would you put them in an American school or would you put them in a Taiwanese school?
Obviously, financially, if it's possible,
yeah,
I would love to see them be able to go to international school.
Like a Morrison kind of
have
place?
Have a Morrison, KAS type.
It's very expensive.
It is very expensive.
Right?
So again,
so it's a money factor.
It's a money thing, or the right job.
Dude, imagine you were the coach of like a Morrison kind of place.
I definitely would love to see that happen. I'm working toward that.
If I said, what is Gabe, you would say I'm an American and a Taiwanese?
My mother-in-law calls me an egg.
An egg.
So white shell, yellow inside. Obviously, on the outside, to the random stranger on the street,
yeah,
I look like any other Westerner, foreigner, or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah.
But then I talk to people and I get to know people, and everybody's just like, oh.
So what's something that would be endearing to the Taiwanese audience that you could say in Taiwanese? Anything that comes to mind?
When I was a kid, I loved to be like, 我是台湾人. I'd be like, I'm Taiwanese. Like I was so proud of that as a kid. Like, 我讲我是台湾人. And I was like, wow.
That sounds pretty authentic.
And it was like, oh, you are Taiwanese. Like, you can speak Taiwanese. But then I was like, I don't speak that much Taiwanese. My parents learned it.
Yeah.
My Mandarin is 10 times better than my Taiwanese. Think in Chinese.
You dream in Chinese.
I dream in Chinese. I think in Chinese. 就是在台湾长大，台湾生活，我都试着当一个正面的人，就是乐观的，不要太负面的。就是你当然外观台湾，我会一直被看、被讲、被怎么样，就觉得要包容大家，要大家包容你，多去认识一些外国朋友啊，不是每个人长得像外国人，都一定是。
You're a Taiwan rat. Dude, you sound Taiwanese when you talk. Like even the way your mouth moves and your physical whatever changes when you're speaking Taiwanese. It's crazy.
Speaking English and Chinese is so different.
Can you be my teacher?
It's just like a switch and you just go, okay, Chinese mode, Chinese.
What's your Chinese name?
家耀，家庭的家，荣耀的耀. I spent probably 3 or 4 years after high school in a completely Chinese environment. I took myself completely out of English. Like I just outside of my mom and dad, I just did nothing but spend all my time around
so do I
Taiwanese friends, and because that's where you pick up the nuances and the colloquial like the slang and like everything, like because I can tell you immediately if somebody learned Chinese in a textbook or learned it from just hanging out with people, because it's so different.
So what you're saying is I need my wife and my 2 boys to just flip over to Chinese and just force me to learn.
Yeah. Like you push yourself, because like whether it was friends or girls that I dated who spoke 0 English.
Yeah.
So it forced you, if you want to have this friendship, you want to have this relationship, you have to learn the language.
Yeah. And I've always had a wife that's perfect in English, and my children just naturally speak English to me and Chinese to their mom.
So it's
not
tough.
helpful to me.
Oh no, it's tough. It's an effort. There definitely is some effort that goes into it. When I was in elementary and middle school, my Chinese teachers hated me because I hated Chinese class. I didn't want to learn Chinese.
For sure.
It wasn't until I was an adult that I had an appreciation for the language and actually took time to learn it.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure, brother. I mean, I feel like we could probably talk for another 5 weeks.
And I'm happy to get together.
We can have another chat. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I will see you in the next one. Final words of wisdom that you can finish out this beautiful chat?
Stay positive, stay active, stay sane.
I like that. And with that said, goodbye, neighbor.